To ensure berrying with holly trees, you do need both male and female plants. The one behind me here is a variegated Van Tol, which is self-fertile. This one has both male and female flowers on it and will self-berry, although the birds have already stripped this one so far this year because we do have a lot of little birds. But it has then pollinated this large Argentea marginata, which is just at the side, and you can see there are still a few berries left on this one. If you don't have space for two trees, the other thing to do is try a female, because it may well be that in a hedgerow in a garden near you there's male holly growing, and that again you might find that the bees will come and pollinate it anyway. Sometimes it's worth just trying a female because there could be a male in your neighbour's garden or in the hedge at the bottom of the garden. With holly we're going to do our shaping probably in a week or so's time, as soon as it's cooled down a little bit more. Holly responds really well to being hard cut, as long as you do it when it's dormant. The other thing with golden Van Tol, which makes it particularly nice to handle and touch, is that there's no thorns or no spikes. So it's a nice, soft, gentle holly to touch. Whereas if we look at Argentea marginata, this one here, beautiful traditional style holly with a creamy white margin around the outside of the leaf, but it is full of prickles. Birch tree trimming is something that has to be timed each year to get the time right. You need the leaves to have fallen and the tree to be dormant, and it's literally just in this last week that they're just about there now. But the key with birch, because the sap rises quite early in the year, you need to wait and for them to stop growing, lose the leaves, which they've now done, and the timing of any pruning work to birch trees needs to be done from when they stop growing up until probably the end of the year, because birch, the sap starts rising really early in the year, and it can be as early as mid-January. So you've got a very short pruning window really with birch to be able to safely do them. If you try to do these early on in the year or over the spring or the summer, what you'll find is that the sap will run like a tap, and also that then opens up the tree for potential disease. So it's vital with birch that you wait to the autumn and you wait for them to fully finish dropping the leaves and to enter dormancy, and now they're ready for pruning and shaping if needed. If you're ordering bare root hedging or trees for planting this winter, when they arrive with you, quite often what you'll find is they'll be wrapped in a bag to keep the roots moist while they're in transit. First thing we're going to do is rehydrate the roots so they're ready then for planting. These trees are currently dormant, which is why they can be lifted at this time of year and safely moved. So they're not in active growth, they've actually now stopped growing for the winter, and as such it's the ideal time to be able to lift them and move them without roots. But the most important thing is that we don't want the roots to dry out. So when they arrive, it's really just a case of unpacking them and rehydrating those roots so they're ready then to go into the ground. You can see with the young trees here, basically they've been bundled together. This is quite common. This is just baler twine that we quite often use ourselves for tying them together. And you can actually see that you've got a full fibrous root system there with no damage and nice clean roots. And also quite visibly, you can see the soil level that it's been planted at in the ground. Just where my finger is here, this is what you'd call the heel of the tree or heel of the shrub. And that's the level that we want to be planting that tree out when we're putting it in the ground. It's very important that we don't want to be burying the stem, we want to be planting it at the same level that it's been grown in the ground. That is a young copper beech tree. So this is the level that will have been planted at the ground or in the ground. So that's the soil level where my fingers are just there. Root system below, and obviously this is then the stem and the top growth at the top there. Basically into the water there, what I've just added is 2 to 3 grams of sugar, which basically helps to form a starch coating, or helps to speed up the starch formation and coating on those new roots. So the key ideally is to get all those roots nicely submerged in the tub of water there, and we want to leave those sitting for about half an hour just to let the roots rehydrate, which will then mean when we lift them and put them into a bag to take them to plant them, the roots aren't going to dry out. And by rehydrating the roots, we're going to get the roots moving without breaking the dormancy and getting the tops to start shooting. We're going to split the process into a few different sessions because I've got quite a lot and I want these to try and have a decent soaking before we get them in the ground. So next week what I'll run through is the actual planting of them. Been waiting for several weeks now to do these. These are desperate for pruning and reshaping, particularly this one where it's come over in the wind in the storms that we've just had. So you can see it's leaning quite considerably. I will be lifting and restaking this one and bringing it back up where it's gone over. But before we do that, I want to take a lot of this weight off. The only downside is, even though we've had the first couple of frosts, we've still got green leaves, which means that it's still active. It hasn't fully formed its dormancy yet. So it's going to be another week. Hopefully by this time next week, or possibly the week after, when we've had another couple of cold weeks, the rest of these green leaves that we're looking at on the top of these crabs and on these apples will have dropped and the tree will have gone into dormancy, at which point then we can get in and get the pruning done. So you might recognise this area. This is where our wildflower area. So this is where we cut back the wildflower, and the other week we were planting some bulbs into this area as well. Now the leaves have fallen on the birch, you can really start to see the white stems and how they stand out. So it's going to give us a lot of cover and colour over the winter months still. We did last winter have one that had gone over completely. This is one that snaps in the wind. We've taken the top off it, and you can now see the new regrowth that's come back this year so far. But it's probably a few too many stems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thin out some of this lower growth and just leave 3 or 4 so this forms a new multi-stem tree. So one of the things I've also decided to do with this particular area, and again it's waiting for the right time of year to do it, is basically just to show off these stems. I'm going to take some of the lower growth off. Quite often as birch grows up, the lower boughs will die off naturally, some of which will be wind pruned, but also it'll open it up a little bit more at the base here for the wildflower and allow a little bit more light and air in at the base of the tree. So I'm actually going to take off, I think, some of these boughs, and I know that I'm now on the right time of year because, as you can see, if this tree wasn't dormant, then this would start to form sap and start to run, but because it's now entered its dormancy, we've got a nice clean cut and there's no sap coming from that at all. So now is the ideal time for trimming that birch. I know I talk a lot about trees, I'm very passionate about them, but I'm also very passionate about doing things at the right time. So I keep walking past this holly and I'm looking at it all the time and I'm seeing where I want to trim it back to and shape it. And you can probably just about make out the cut line that I'm going to do, which is where it was cut to last year, if you can look in there, last winter's cuts. But I need to be patient, I need to wait for the right time. If I do it at the right time, it will then be a lot healthier for the tree, and the tree will thank me for it next year. I'm going to go and start to prepare for my bare root, so I need to start digging trenches very shortly. But if you like what we're talking about, then please give us a like, or if you'd like anything else covering in one of our videos, then again please let us know in the comments and we'll try and work something in for you.